Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to the May 8th, 2025 regular meeting of the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners. We're going to begin our meeting today with an invocation from Heath Thornton, Church of the Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You can come on up, Heath, and it'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Linville. I'd like to ask everyone to stand if you are able.
Our Father in heaven, we are grateful to Thee to be able to meet together today. We're grateful for these many public servants who commit time and energy for the benefit of our county and the people therein. We're grateful for the freedoms that we enjoy and for the blessings we've received from Thee. Thank Thee for this opportunity to come together and plead for Thy blessings. And we pray now that Thou wilt bless this meeting with Thy Spirit. Pray that Thou wilt inspire and bless wisdom upon those that will be making decisions. Pray that their interest will be in the best interest of the people, needs that they have. Say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Citizens who are interested in participating in the public session portion of the meeting may do so by calling 336-422-1200. That number again is 336-422-1200. And you'll be placed on hold until the public session begins. And any member of the audience who is wishing to communicate to the board during the public session, you may fill out a speaker card and return it to our clerk, Ashley Matthews. And if you need a card, it's outside. You can get it, and you can even do that right now. The first item on the agenda is a resolution recognizing May 2025 as Eligibility Specialist Appreciation Month. Chantel Williams, Social Services Division Director, is here to receive the resolution, and I'd like to call on Commissioner, come on, in fact, you can come up and you can bring others with you. Just go ahead and take your time. And we're actually, Commissioner McDaniel is going to read the resolution from here. Then she's going to come down and join you at the podium, and everybody will get an opportunity to take a picture. And Todd Luck is here at the end. So please come up, and we'll call on Commissioner McDaniel to read the resolution.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. This is a resolution recognizing May 2025 as Eligibility Specialist Appreciation Month in Forsyth County, North Carolina. Whereas eligibility specialists play a vital role in ensuring the well-being of Forsyth County residents by providing essential services such as Medicaid, food and nutrition, energy assistance, work first, non-emergency Medicaid transportation, client services, and child care services. Whereas these dedicated professionals work tirelessly to access eligibility, process applications, and connect individuals and families with critical resources that enhance their quality of life. Whereas eligibility specialists exhibit exceptional dedication, empathy, and professionalism in assisting residents facing financial hardship, medical needs, and other challenges. Whereas their commitment to public service directly contributes to the health, stability, and economic security of the community, helping to reduce poverty, to promote self-sufficiency, and whereas it is fitting to recognize and honor the invaluable contributions of the eligibility specialists whose efforts often go unrecognized despite their profound impact on individuals and families in Forsyth County. Now, therefore, be it resolved that in Forsyth County, the Board of Commissioners do hereby recognize May 2025 as Eligibility Specialist Appreciation Month in Forsyth County to acknowledge and celebrate the dedication and hard work of those essential professionals and encourages residents, community partners, and local organizations to join in expressing gratitude to eligibility specialists for their unwavering commitment to service and support. Adopted this 8th day of May 2025.
I'll make that motion. All in favor, please say aye. Thank you all. Thank you. And Chantel, you can say anything. If you'd like to say something, you may.
I'd just like to say thank you for the recognition and honoring our eligibility specialists. They mean the world to us over at DSS because they provide valuable services to the public. Thank you all.
Absolutely. Thank you all again. Next item on the agenda is a resolution recognizing May as Mental Health Awareness Month. And Andrea Vasquez, Coordinator of Health Services, is here to receive the resolution. And please, you can come right on down and join Vice Chair Wisenhunt. She's going to read the resolution, and please invite others to come forward. Had a nice recognition for Ms. Vasquez last night at one of our district North Carolina Association of County Commissioners meetings, and for the great work she done. She was our district hero for the year, actually. So we're proud of you. We're going to do another recognition later, but I couldn't help but mention it, seeing you back-to-back days. So I couldn't help but mention that. Commissioner Wisenhunt.
Thank you. This is a resolution recognizing May as Mental Health Awareness Month in Forsyth County, North Carolina. Whereas mental health illness affects almost every family in America, whereas millions of adults and children are disabled by mental illness every year, whereas only 1 out of 2 people with serious forms of mental illness seek treatment for his or her mental illness, whereas stigma and fear of discrimination keep many who would benefit from mental health services from seeking help. Whereas research shows that the most effective way to reduce stigma is through personal contact with someone with a mental health illness. Whereas people with mental illness can recover if given the necessary services and supports in their community. Whereas there's a proven connection between good mental health and overall personal health and well-being. Whereas people with mental illnesses make important contributions to our families and our communities. Whereas good mental health is critical to the well-being of our families, communities, schools, and business. Whereas greater public awareness about mental illnesses can change negative attitudes and behavior towards people with mental illnesses. Whereas Forsyth County government cares about the health and mental well-being of its citizens. Now therefore be it resolved by the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners hereby recognize May 2025 as Mental Health Awareness Month in Forsyth County and recognize the importance of mental health and ask residents to support each other to know that they are not alone, that there is hope and help and healing is possible. This is adopted the 8th day of May 2025.
Happy to make that motion. Is there a second? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Congratulations, you guys.
Just Thank you, commissioners. The commissioners and the manager's office is so supportive of mental health that I want a huge shout out to all of our partners and providers within the community. They do a great job every day, not just in May, and really serving Forsyth County residents and their mental health needs. So thank you all.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a resolution recognizing May 4th through 10th, 2025 as Professional Clerks Week. And I'd like to say, particularly in our office, I want to say a special thank you to Ashley Matthews and Rosalind Covington for their work. She's our assistant, Rosalind is our assistant county clerk. We have a resolution somewhere. Let's see, who has a resolution for that? Maybe Ashley has a resolution for, no, I'm just teasing.
No, in your script, I just wrote where you can say thank you to us, and then you can vote.
Oh, so that's,
Absolutely, no, I can read it.
when it has the word resolution, I'm looking for somebody to read a resolution. But anyway, I'm resolved to recognize Ashley and Rosalind. They do tremendous work.
They do.
Needless to say, and obviously preparing the agenda is one of the items that she does tremendous work on.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me, do you have it, Commissioner Bessie?
Oh, there is, you have it. I don't have it.
Oh, this is not the original, but this is a copy of the one.
Well, okay.
Resolution recognizing May 4, 2025 through May 10, 2025 as Professional Clerks Week. Whereas the office of clerk to the Board of Commissioners, which includes the clerk and deputy clerk, is a time-honored and vital part of local government and is among the oldest among public servants. Whereas clerks provide a professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies and agencies of government at other levels. And whereas clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality, their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all. And whereas clerks serve as the information center on functions of local government and community. And whereas clerks continually strive to improve their services through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations. And whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the clerk to the Board of Commissioners. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners hereby recognizes the week of May 4, 2025 through May 10, 2025 as Professional Clerks Week, and further extends its appreciation to Forsyth County Clerk, to the Board of Commissioners, Ashley Matthews, and Deputy Clerk Rosalind Covington, for the vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the Board of Commissioners and the citizens of Forsyth County, adopted this 8th day of May 2025, and I so move.
I'd like to make that motion, certainly.
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Woodson. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. That's good. Do we need a picture of Ashley?
Yes, and Rosalind is in the back of the room, so if we could get a picture, that would be great.
Rosalind.
Let's go. I'll come down.
Send the marshal.
Good try, Ashley.
You don't get to do that. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes for the meeting of April the 24th, 2025. Do we have a motion?
So move approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Bessie.
Second.
Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Madam Clerk, do we have any calls or cards for public session?
Mr. Chairman, we don't have any callers, but we have one speaker card.
Okay, thank you.
Albert Gazik, please come forward. State your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Albert Gazik. I live at 177 Mallory Glen Circle, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I don't usually speak at these public hearings, but I always said the day they make America the Pope, I would do it. And today's the day. So, what I'm here for is I stress that I know it's hard to present and make a budget, but there are many special services that I believe are necessary, and I see districts around us always coming up short at the end of the year. They have to cut services. And what I'm asking you to, this year when you prepare your budget, I want you to stash a little extra aside so we can cover some of those deficiencies when they pop up. So, thank you.
Thank you. All righty, Madam County Manager, we are ready for you to continue with the remainder of the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, Commissioners, staff, and guests. The agenda items before you have been briefed and hopefully questions answered. Agenda item number 6 is an amendment to the 2016 Schools Capital Projects Ordinance. This will provide $2,568,000 to Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools from the 2016 referendum bond proceeds and budget reserve to be allocated to East Forsyth High School project for emergency repairs needed for the utility tunnels and the failing boiler and contingency. This would leave $3,197,424.32 in budget reserves.
Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Bessie, a second. Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion?
I have a few questions and hopefully some good discussion. I think that I spoke with Darrell Walker over at Winston Forsyth County Schools yesterday. We had a very robust conversation. He may want to come up so that we can put our conversation on record for the good of Forsyth County citizens. The one point that I want to start off making is that I was not clear regarding whether this item was actually on the 2016 bond referendum, which it is not. It is a new scope of work to support an issue that was found in trying to complete an item that is officially on the 2016 bond referendum, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So could you help us understand why this repair or this new request is an emergency as it relates to the safety of children at East Forsyth?
Yeah, as part of the East Forsyth project, there's a canopy project there. They were tearing down all the old canopies and putting in new canopies. Back when the canopies that are there, the original canopies in 1962. And when they were installed back in 1962, they were bolted to the sidewalk, right? Underneath that sidewalk is the utility tunnel. And over the last 50-some odd years, water has intruded through the bolts of those canopies and now into the tunnel. And now the tunnel is failing and those sidewalks are on top of it. And we have tried to restrict student access to those over the last 3 or 4 weeks, which has been really challenging to try to prevent any kind of catastrophic event. So the plan at this point is if we're able to move forward, we will be demoing those canopies next week and pulling every sidewalk up within the interior part of the campus, kind of recalking, redoing, cleaning all that up and putting all new sidewalks back in, which is, it's an unfortunate part of this, but it is a safety issue that we need to resolve.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think that when you say emergency, there can be different interpretations of that. And I was actually looking at MSNBC this morning, and they were talking about how the new technical language around emergency repairs appear to hide sometimes different ways to circumvent generally sending things out to bid. And I wanted to put on record that that was not what you were doing. This is a true safety issue for the students over at East Forsyth. And, you know, the one other question that I would have, because I know generally, if you're going to, of course, bring to us a need for renovation repair, you do, you know, an assessment of everything that's needed. And so one of the questions I asked you, why didn't we know about this issue at the beginning so that then this cost could have been inside of the true renovation that's actually inside of the bond?
Yeah, so we knew we were going to do a canopy replacement, but it had not been fully engineered at that point. We just kind of had noted that we were going to do that and had an estimated cost to replace those. Actually, by the way, the new ones are not going to be attached to the sidewalk going forward. They're going to be attached to the building, so that we don't have this problem another 50, 60 years from now. But so when they went to engineer this as part of the summer project, that's when it was identified that we had a water intrusion issue and an intrusion amongst the safety of that sidewalk.
So do you agree that best practice would have been to have done the engineering part on the front end versus after the fact so that we could have had a better, I guess, cost estimate as it relates to what is needed for the replacement of the canopies?
Yeah, I think there's always room for improvement, right? And so I can understand that approach, and I think that, I mean, unfortunately, sometimes you stumble across things in construction, but something of that nature, maybe it did warrant some engineering on the front end. But typically, you know, that kind of comes kind of mid or after the fact, but lesson learned on that, especially of that magnitude. But thank God we had canopy project in this, or we'd have never found it. And we'd have been dealing with a different issue in about probably a few months from now.
Yeah. Thank you for,
Just as a follow-up, I'm assuming that the canopy part was actually in the initial renovation?
Correct.
And so then this is a matter of a discovery of something later. It's kind of like finding, you have an excavate, you're clearing a site, getting ready for a building, and you have a rock claws or whatever, and you find those kind of things you have to deal with.
Yep.
And I've never seen a building that was over 60 years old, if you started renovating, you don't find some undiscoverable things that were unknown to deal with. So so in this change order, is this actually through a change order, or was it bid separately?
Is a change order.
It's a change order with a contractor?
Yep.
Okay, I got it. Any further questions?
so I
there?
was still asking questions.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. So to Chair Martin's point, you know, a school that this old, I would have assumed that there would have been a more meticulous assessment to make sure that we knew all that we, you know, all things being equal, we needed to know in order to make sure that the correct renovation project or a more complete idea of the renovation of East Forsyth, including the replacement of the canopies, was considered. And I think you and I talked about, you know, I gave you a very commonsensical example of the 20-year-old Shay is not the 50-year-old Shay. So when I go into the doctor, I might look good, but if he don't check my blood pressure and all of that stuff, I'll walk out of there because I'm looking good. It looks a certain way. So obviously, with the wear and tear on a lot of our schools, you know, my point that I'm driving home right now is that we need to be very strategic when it comes to the assessment and obviously maintenance of our buildings so that the citizen, when they vote on these bond referendums, they get a true picture versus we have to come back later and say there needs to be something else added. And I think that that is unfair to the citizen who votes for a very clear, you know, list of projects, which lastly brings me to the point about the boiler. Because that's added in, and then there's a boiler plus contingency.
Right.
So could you disaggregate what part of the $468,000 is the boiler versus the contingency?
Boiler's around 250 of that. And that is an original boiler to the 1962 building as well. So we've gotten quite a bit of use out of that, but it has failed on us. And so, we decided to go ahead and roll it all into this project while we had contractors on site. And so that's the reason for that ask today. And then the rest is just, I don't anticipate, knock on wood, I don't anticipate using that contingency dollars. Quite honestly, they're there for just if we run into anything else while we're in the ground under that tunnel. But I don't anticipate any kind of, I'm hoping to come back to you and then reallocate those funds at a later date.
So what would be the direct impact around student safety with the boiler going out?
Well, it's a heating issue, right? And so it heats a certain part of the campus. So it doesn't, not the whole campus, but it impacts 2 buildings.
So what I'm getting at is I think that if we were just, being considerate of across the district, you probably have a lot of schools that have boiler issues, and we're going to have to get to those. I think that, in my opinion, of course, coming for the fix of the tunnel, very reasonable, but to put the tunnel and the boiler on one package, to me, seems to be stretching it. And I would ask that the commissioners put, a vote on the tunnel and then a vote on the boiler, because while I can support the tunnel fix, the boiler, to me, is, something that we need to put on another list when we're, trying to maintain and fix boilers across, our district. But, thank you for sharing that information with us.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other discussion?
So I do have a question for Daryl. Daryl, real quick, I sat in a meeting with County Manager Chantel Robinson with the school board relative to their capital needs plan. Where are we with that? Where are you guys with that, providing it to the commissioners?
Is this our 2/3 plan?
No, they're asking for the needs assessment beyond what is already provided for the 2/3 plan, so a full capital improvement plan.
Oh, okay. I've got that information. I haven't been asked for it, but I'm happy to, I will get with our folks and share that.
Yeah, within the week.
It's a pretty substantial list.
Yeah, I know. That's
Yeah.
okay. We want it.
Okay.
Okay.
But, Daryl, it was my understanding that you all were vetting through that list and was hiring somebody to help prioritize or something like that, that it was not the final list, or is this the final list?
It's the final list as I know it. So let me clarify a few things for you, Chantel, if you don't mind.
And please respond back in about a week if you don't mind.
Yes, ma'am.
We keep getting,
Yep.
yeah, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Go ahead.
I did have a question maybe to our county attorney, Mr. Watkins. If I wanted to present an alternative, although we've already had the motion on the floor, but the alternative is very consequential to what's on the floor as relates to trying to separate the two, could I present now an alternative to the initial motion?
You could certainly make a motion to amend.
Oh, okay. Okay. Go ahead, Commissioner
So would you
Bessie.
like to make a
Yes,
motion to amend?
I would, but I didn't know if Commissioner Bessie had a question before I did that.
I do. For the record, what is the nature of the failure? You didn't say that it was having difficulties. You said it had failed.
The boiler itself
Yes.
has shut down and not working, and it's so old from 62, can't get the parts for it anymore.
All right, so if you had had a similar situation arrive during the school year at any school in the system, Forest Park Elementary, Reagan High School, Carver High School, would you be in a similar situation of needing to ask for immediate
If we weren't on
assistance?
that campus doing a bond project where we had a contractor on site, I would have to go into the capital plan and replace that project, substitute that project for another and move it back. And I'd have to come back to you and ask you for that permission to do so.
But you would be coming for us more or less immediately, I imagine.
Yeah,
in a similar
absolutely, because we
situation.
want to try to get it done before fall and winter rolls around next year. So we're trying to get it done this summer.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well, and I'll ask you one more question, because there's this issue of whether there were, I know having the contractors already on the site, sort of to do the work and to be there, would substantially reduce the cost. The question is, did you get any other proposals from anybody else to sort of double check to see if it could be done? I mean, from a competitor, for example?
We didn't do a formal bid. We did ask and get some pricing. Obviously, it was a lot cheaper when the contractor was already on site. And that was the difference maker in this one for us.
Yeah, but that made the whole thing work, and
Yes, sir.
I do understand that.
Yes, sir.
So we have a substitute motion that you would like to consider the proposal separately,
Correct.
and separately as in we would vote on the tunnel repair, the canopies, and then the boiler separately. Is there a second to Commissioner Woodbury's motion? Hearing none, let's go back to the original motion. Is there any further discussion on the original motion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item number 7 is a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Forsyth County, North Carolina, designating the purpose of net premium related to the General Obligation Bond Series 2025. This would designate 65% of net premiums for county facilities, 30% to Winston-Salem Forsyth County school projects, and 5% to community college projects. We won't know the exact dollar amounts until we close.
Is there a motion?
I do have an alternative, a substitute motion.
We have
Okay.
we have a motion from Vice Chair Wizenhut. We have a second.
For the purpose of discussion, I'll second.
We have a second from Commissioner Bessie. Now, any discussion?
I would like to make an alternative to the motion. So since the current estimate is to build the new Ashley is $46 million and only $39.8 million is available, thus there's a $6 million shortage. And since there has been unanimous unwavering support of by all of the commissioners to support the building of a new Ashley Elementary, I move to reserve 100% of the net premium to support the building of Ashley if needed.
So we have a substitute motion. Is there a second?
I will second.
We have a second from Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion on changing the percentages?
I have a question for our county manager. This is one of the items that I had raised as a discussion question during the second briefing of this item, whether it would be, given the limited amount of funds that we anticipated to have available from this premium, if it would not be more effective to pick a particular project. And I understand that, as you have presented to us previously, that you are concerned about major deferred maintenance needs for other county-owned facilities. Is there any particular item for which you're proposing that the 60% of the premium be allocated among that list?
So in my manager's recommended budget, you will see the estimated dollar amount to go towards county projects. And so some of them are detention center projects, a lot of them are detention center projects, and there are some others that we can provide a list for. One of the other reasons that we also did the percentages is that simultaneously we were able to identify additional funds for Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools in the amount of $1.7 million from the lottery proceeds. And so we thought, again, in fairness, they're about 30% of our general fund budget. We have identified the additional $1.7 million that they have not drawn down since fiscal year 22. That could also help with Ashley. And the board, their school board, requested to utilize 2027 bonds. So we keep saying there's a shortage, but there's not a shortage in what their board has requested and what our board has potentially approved.
If I may.
Sure, go ahead.
With all respect, though, that, excuse me, the 2027 increment of two-thirds bonds will not be available in time for a project involving Ashley to be started this year.
That is correct. So this board cannot approve 2027 bond proceeds until those funds are available. But their school board in writing requested to utilize 2027 bonds.
I'm sure that had they anticipated that there would be a shortfall in, it is my recollection, let me say instead, that they were under the misimpression at the time that we would be in a legal position to do an advance allocation of the 2027 two-thirds bonds money. And it was not until after they had made the request in that form that we were advised by our counsel that, in fact, we couldn't do it that way. We had to wait. Or at least if we already knew that, apparently they didn't know that when they made the request in the form they made it, because they were anticipating and hoping to begin the project this year.
I can't speak on behalf of the school system.
And I wouldn't do that either, but I do have a memory of the discussion literally years ago when the whole, because this was set up with 2 years ago when the first two-thirds bond sale. In addition to, we also took the premiums from 2016, added that all together and came up with about 80 some odd million that would be available. And at that time, Ashley was not earmarked as any kind of project. It was for 88 million for total of projects. So the project list, my memory, there was a project list. I'm not sure Ashley was on that list. I'm trying to remember
The 2 years, you mean 2 years ago?
It was 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah, Ashley was on that list, because I recall having explicit conversation with the past county manager about Ashley being on the list. Oh, absolutely. We can go.
It may have been.
Yeah, it was.
But let me just clarify this piece. What are we talking about in the premium for this small bond issue? We're talking about something my memory was in the $1.2 million something. What are we roughly expecting?
So we started at a potentially $2 million, then it dropped to 1.7, then 1.3, and it'll be anywhere probably between $1 million and $2 million by the time we close, because it's just going to be dependent on the market.
And I do recall that Forsyth Tech had a little piece of that, of something that they were particularly interested in, which would be the roughly, I mean, we're looking at numbers like 50,000 or so for Forsyth Tech. We're looking at about 600,000 the other way, and about 36,000 for the schools. They're fairly small amounts, and I have no problem. I think Forsyth Tech has it, because we've been unable to meet any of their special requests, that, I would probably want to see them get their piece. But I think for the other 500,000 or 600,000, I'm not sure that's going to make the difference, but I don't particularly have a problem with designating it for the schools in that case. I just think Forsyth Tech is, in a piece of that, this was one way we could provide some additional support for them.
And I could agree with that, and to amend my alternative motion to keep Forsyth Tech at 5% and the rest go to Ashley Elementary.
Other discussion on this?
Well, I believe that we have an obligation to take care of Forsyth County buildings. I think they're equally as important as schools, and that's part of our job, is to build county facilities, and we very much need some updating to our facilities. And I see this as being generous to schools and community college.
Yeah, I will admit we did start with all for the county, and ended up with some, and there was the split was based on basically percents of budgets. So there was a mathematical reason and arithmetic reason to do that. Another comment.
Just actually speaking to that point of what would be a natural split, if you go based on what percentage of our operating budget goes to which category, that's where you get the 30%. If you go according to the bonds that are being retired, in this case, though, of the, 33 thereabouts million bonds being retired, over 27 million are being retired from the school facilities category. So on that basis, you could make an equally reasonable argument that the school category should get the lion's share of this particular premium. I see reasonable arguments both ways, but I think in this case, I'm inclined to support the substitute.
Is there other additional discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chairman, could you please, there was a motion to amend, and I believe that motion has been amended. There's a proposal for that. It would be helpful if the motion to amend.
Repeat the motion?
Yes. I believe the last one I heard was 95% for the school system and 5% for Forsyth Tech.
Maybe I'll ask Commissioner Woodbury to kind of restate her motion.
Yes, so that is, the alternative motion would be to allocate 95% to the school system and 5% to Forsyth Tech, the net premium.
It would be helpful to get a second on that.
Yeah. Commissioner McDaniel, do you second that motion? We have a second. So any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, it's like sign. Aye. So if I heard right, it's 4-3 against. If I heard correct. Right. Okay, item number 8.
We have to vote on the original.
You'll go back to the original motion.
Well, the original motion was to actually designate the purpose. We're way back to the substitute motion. Any discussion of the original motion?
I'm happy. In the absence, I preferred the substitute motion, but I think this is a responsible allocation as well, and I'm happy to support that.
Good, so we had a motion and a second, so we are now ready to, any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item number 8 is an amendment to the fiscal year 25 budget ordinance to appropriate additional revenue in the Employee Health Benefits Internal Service Fund. This would provide a one-time employer contribution of $4.5 million from the general fund to the Internal Service Fund to cover the cost of health insurance claim. This agenda item also authorizes us to separate pharmacy rebates, stop-loss premium expenses, and reimbursements to be budgeted as separate line items, which will provide a clearer view of the operating results of the plan.
Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion approved by Commissioner McDaniel. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bessie. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item number 9 is a resolution to direct fiscal year 26 expenditures of opioid settlement funds and an associated amendment to the North Carolina Opioid Settlement Special Revenue Fund to appropriate funds for fiscal year 26. The HHS Board unanimously approved these recommendations at their April 2nd meeting. This would authorize $4,508,775 for 30 projects effective July 1st, 2026.
We have a motion.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Second by Commissioner Bessie. Any discussion? The only discussion item I'd say, I appreciate Deputy County Manager's email that she sent with a whole lot of background on both the opioid and the behavioral health that we discussed during the briefing. So that was very helpful to me, and I certainly have no more questions. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item number 10 is a resolution authorizing appropriation of behavioral health funds and execution of associated agreements in fiscal year 26. The HHS Board also unanimously approved this item at their April 2nd meeting. This would authorize $2,055,171 for 19 projects effective July 1st, 2026, and an additional $1,971,506 of behavioral health funds are used for county staff and programs, Partners Health Management, and the Mental Health Substance Use and IDD Advisory Boards that are part of the fiscal year 26 budget.
Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Motion approved by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Wilson. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item number 11 is a resolution authorizing execution of an agreement with Mythix LLC for Oracle Cloud subscription services in an amount not to exceed $692,062.20 plus taxes for the period of May 22nd, 2025 through May 21st, 2026.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Motion approved by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Is there a second? We have a second by Commissioner Bessie. Any discussion?
I've already expressed my concern.
So is there any, if we wanted, and do we have some cyber, we have a general cyber, I'm looking for Gary, we do have a cyber security, actually overall policy?
We do.
Which we do?
We do.
Would that cover a breach in this particular, because it's our data still that would be breached out of the Oracle system, which is kind of a part of us, would that not apply?
I mean, whatever's in our cyber liability would apply to this. I don't know if, Gordon, if you want to weigh in on that.
Yeah, it depends on what happens. This contract has, as Commissioner Wilson has pointed out, has restrictions on consequential damages and limits liability to the 1-year payment. So if it were a failure of the system, so we just couldn't access our data, that wouldn't be cybersecurity. Cybersecurity insurance wouldn't kick in for that, I wouldn't believe. If somebody hacked into the Oracle system, then that should be covered by our cyber insurance.
Makes sense, I think. Makes sense. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda items 12 through 14 are our reports. 12 is the March contribution-based benefit cap report. 13 is the 2025 general obligation bond resolution correction report. And 14 is our outside county economic development fund report.
Do we have a motion to accept reports?
Move to approve.
Motion approved by Commissioner Linville. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
That's all our agenda items. We do have a planning update from Chris Murphy for zoning case F-1657. Following that, I have my manager's budget recommendation.
No, we're going to ask all of them.
Technical difficulty.
At another meeting, all 11 of them.
Good afternoon. This is the first briefing on a public hearing that will be coming to you on the 22nd. This is a request of Tanya and Leslie Hardy to rezone 27.89 acres of property located along the east side of Hastings Road between Interstate 74 and High Point Road. This is close to Union Cross Elementary School. The request is a special use district rezoning from AG to RM5S for multifamily townhomes, maximum of 5 units per the acre. This is the subject property shown on the county's growth management area plan map. It is located within GMA 3. You see the dot there, that again is Hastings Road in between I-74, 311, and High Point Road. This is the subject property highlighted in yellow, again on the east side of Hastings Road. This is I-74. This is Union Cross Elementary. This is the Union Cross High Point Road intersection there at Union Cross Moravian Church. This is the Leadership Academy School, which is located here. And this is the Weatherstone RM8S project, and that is a mixture of single-family and townhomes that were approved by the commissioners back in 2004. I do want to point out while I'm on this slide, it's pretty good to see with this, there is a sewer manhole that is located on the north side of High Point Road that was installed as part of this Weatherstone project that then does gravity flow back to the west. So that's going to be an important consideration whenever I go over the area plan and what the area plan shows. This is the subject property outlined in yellow on the countywide aerial imagery. Again, you see that there is, this has been an agricultural piece of property. It was in tobacco for many years. 28 acres, again, east side of Hastings Road. Again, you see I-74, you see the elementary school, you see the Leadership Academy, and you see the Weatherstone development. As I mentioned earlier, this is the countywide, this is the area plan. This is the Southeast Forsyth County Area Plan Update, which was completed in 2014. If you notice, this area is shown, even though it's in GMA 3, it is shown for large lot residential. And the reason behind that recommendation is at the time when, this was an update, at the time the original area plan was done in 2003, there was no sewer in this area. Whenever the update was done, again, I don't think anyone thought that this piece of property would be able to be gravity sewered, utilizing this manhole here, but this is a relatively flat piece of property. They have the engineering that shows they can get into this manhole, so this is considered to be within the serviceable area. So this is an area that has water and sewer, and as such, it would be appropriate to develop at single-family residential densities, which are 0 to 8 units per acre generally. But again, the area plan recommends large lot residential, and that was, again, a reflection of the thought that you could not sewer that property. This is looking north on Hastings Road. The subject property is to the right. You look way in the distance on the other side of the road, the left-hand side of the road, that's Union Cross Elementary. This is looking east into the subject property from Hastings Road. So this is the actual subject property where the townhomes are proposed. This is looking south along Hastings Road. The subject property is to the left. And this is looking west from the subject property across Hastings Road. This is the site plan. In order to show this, the north is to the right-hand side of the image. This is Hastings Road. This is I-74. This is for 138 townhomes, 2 public streets. All the project, again, has 2 entrances onto Hastings Road. This doesn't connect to any other existing subdivisions. While I'm on this image, I do want to point out Hastings Road currently, I did look at the traffic counts for Hastings Road before I came over here this morning. And on Hastings Road, just on the south side of I-74, so, well, where my cursor is where they have done standardized traffic counts over the last 20 years. And the traffic count high in that 20-year period of time was 1,200 trips. The last traffic count that was done on Hastings Road in that location was 400 trips. And I think that's a reflection of Maple Leaf Golf Course closing a number of years ago. Keep in mind, Hastings Road is a dead-end road. It basically comes off of High Point Road. There are several roads that go off of it, but it does not continue. It dead ends whenever you get into Davidson County. It does not connect to anything else. So I want to point that out because what you're going to hear and you'll see later when I get to the last slide, there are some traffic concerns that have been voiced by the neighbors in the area, but I think it's fairly clear that the traffic is like it is at any other school. It's basically associated with morning drop-off and afternoon pickup. These are just the elevations and floor plans, so this is what the townhomes would look like. Again, 138 units. As the site does lie within GMA3 and will have access to public water and sewer, the request is consistent with the general recommendations of Legacy 2030 to allow residential development at a density of 0 to 8 units per acre within the utilities serviceable land area. The request is also consistent with the recommendations of Legacy 2030 to provide a variety of housing types. Again, this is a standalone project. It does not tie into any other subdivisions. This request would allow for needed housing units in proximity to an activity center and near an existing public school. And I would also say near two interstates. You've got I-74, again, just to the south of this with an access onto it from Union Cross Road, and then a couple miles up Union Cross Road, access to I-40. The request would also allow for residential development in a growing area near major employers. Again, this is an area where there has been a lot of economic development. It's also in the heart of the Triad, close to Kernersville, Greensboro, High Point, et cetera. This was heard by the Planning Board at their April 10th, 2025 public hearing. There was significant opposition, but they had appointed one person to speak. And that opposition primarily had concerns related to traffic at High Point Road and Hastings Road. The increase in density, the use of townhomes, the inconsistency with the adopted area plan, and the lack of an identified need for the project. Following the public hearing, the Planning Board did vote 5-1 to recommend approval of this request to the commissioners. And with that, I'm glad to answer any questions, or if there's any information you want me to look at between now and the next time I brief this on the 19th.
Questions
I stand
for
ready.
Chris? Go ahead.
Couple. I assume that the intersection of Hastings and High Point is not signalized currently.
Correct.
Any sense, based on traffic count, of whether this would trigger eligibility for signalization under state standards?
I doubt it. One of the things that the opposition wanted to know was why a traffic impact analysis was not required. In the ordinance, the Unified Development Ordinance, there's a trigger that if you have greater than 150 trips in the peak hour, you have to provide a traffic impact analysis. That's the standard that's in the UDO, so that's what the MPO uses. NCDOT has a different standard, and NCDOT's standard is that if the total traffic generation is going to be greater than 1,500 trips a day, they can require a TIA. It didn't meet either of those thresholds. So no traffic impact analysis was done. If you look at the volumes of traffic on Hastings Road, the only place we have traffic counts, again, on the south side of 74, you've got 400 trips a day for the residents and the folks that live out there. I'm sure there's a much higher volume at High Point Road around the elementary school, but again, I don't have any counts for that. So to answer your question, there wasn't anything to require the developer to do a TIA, so I don't really have a way to answer your question as far as warrants.
And no recommendations for any turn lanes at this point?
Again, because you have to follow that rational nexus test, there are some turn lanes, I believe, that are proposed for the project on Hastings Road, but not up at the intersection with High Point Road.
And you said this is a dead-end situation. Was that on Hastings?
Hastings is a dead-end road. It has no outlet.
Similar to the Idols Road situation?
Correct.
Thank you.
So what is the distance that Hastings Hill runs from
Hastings.
High Point?
Hastings.
I said I thought I did. Hey, from Hastings, from High Point Road till its end. On Hastings Road, what is its length from High Point Road going to the dead end?
I can get you that measurement. I could probably hazard a guess and say probably 1.25 miles would be my guess.
I think that was at least that.
Yeah.
Other questions for Chris? have our second briefing on Monday, the 19th.
Correct.
All right. Thank you.
Good afternoon again, Commissioners. Sorry, it went to the end slide. Oh, no. Thank you for the opportunity to present my first manager's recommended budget. The budget books are at your seats along with a copy of this presentation. It's in your binders. This is a responsibility I have approached with great care and seriousness. The budget was developed in full compliance with the North Carolina Local Government Budget and Fiscal Control Act. And this presentation provides an overview of my budget message and just some highlights of the recommended budget. First, the budget was developed with a focus on maintaining services for our residents, which we cannot provide without our amazing team. During my first year as county manager, I've prioritized listening, learning, and engaging with the community and employees. And two key takeaways were there. One, the community deeply values the services Forsyth County provides. And two, employees are our greatest asset, and we cannot provide services to our residents without them. This budget was developed very proactively and was shaped by the board's commitment to thoughtful governance and transparency. You all held many discussions, more than in previous years, that began in January. It included winter work sessions, a goals session, March budget workshop, April budget workshop, and you all also adopted 6 priority areas during that goals setting session. And that was in the areas of economic development, public safety, health and human services, education, operations, and active and vibrant living. And while many initiatives aligned with those priority areas are still in development, this fiscal year 26 budget begins to lay the foundation for sustained long-term progress in each of these areas. As you are aware, 2025 is a reappraisal year, and Forsyth County conducts 4-year appraisals, which is an equitable process that revalues all properties at the same time, using the same market standards, ensuring fairness across neighborhoods and property types. And the reappraisal resulted in the county's real estate values increasing approximately 51%. Local governments are required to calculate and publish a revenue-neutral rate, and for fiscal year 25, our tax rate is 67.78 cents, and for fiscal year 26, the revenue-neutral rate decreased by 18.74 cents and would be 49.04 cents. The manager's recommended budget totals $589 million. This is a 0.9% increase over fiscal year 25. Our historical average is typically 3.3%, so we have worked really hard, departments have worked really hard to right-size their budgets while preserving service quality. I am recommending a new tax rate of 53.24 cents, which is 4.2 cents above the revenue neutral rate. That increase will help us to replace non-recurring revenue sources that we have been relying on in previous years. For perspective, at $6.5 million per penny, that is the per penny equivalent for this budget year, the increase generates $27 million in new dollars, and those dollars will help us to sustain without relying on one-time revenue. For perspective, the median home value is $269,700. And so what that means for a Forsyth County taxpayer is that 4.2 cents above revenue neutral would be an increase of $113.27 annually, which is the equivalent of $9.44 per month in order to maintain county services. Our expenditures, again, are $589 million. Some highlights is $297 million, so approximately half is for county operations, $212.8 million is for salary-related expenses. We can't do what we do without our employees. And $95.5 million is for non-salary operating expenses for county operations. $87.9 is for debt, and 71% of that is dedicated to education-related debt. And $193.3 million is direct appropriations to the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools and Forsyth Tech Community College. Again, our revenues match our expenditures at $589 million. And revenue highlights is that property tax growth is projected at 2.51%, which will generate an additional $7.8 million. And while this reflects typical growth, $7.8 million is not sufficient to fully replace the one-time revenues that were previously used to balance the budgets. Local sales tax revenues, including Articles 39, 40, 42, and 46, are projected at $110.8 million, which is a 3% increase over fiscal year 25 estimates. This represents only a 0.5% increase over the adopted fiscal year 25 budget, and that is based on our current fiscal year 25 actual trends. And so, as you all know, sales tax is very volatile, and so we have been seeing decreases in sales tax over the last couple of years. Our investment earnings are expected to decline as well, from $7.25 million to $5.5 million due to interest rate reductions. As you are aware, we have increasingly relied on fund balance to balance the budget, and this chart simply illustrates the change in fund balance usage since fiscal year 21, showing that the percentage has nearly doubled over that period of time. The fund balance represented nearly 6% of the fiscal year 25 adopted budget. For fiscal year 26, I'm recommending that we appropriate $9.7 million of committed fund balance, and that is for debt leveling. That is not to balance the budget in the ways in which we have. This is for debt leveling that is planned and has always been planned. We've had discussions in the past about what are ways we can replace our one-time revenue sources. And just for background, in FY25, our current fiscal year, the adopted budget relied heavily on $31.2 million in one-time revenues to support ongoing operations. That is the equivalent of 6.81 cents on the county's tax rate that was utilized of one-time revenues instead of increasing taxes. That was this year. We also had impacts from the American Rescue Plan Act. Previous budgets utilized funds spreading over $6 million per year across fiscal year 22 through 24, which was supposed to provide temporary relief to help stabilize the tax rate. And for perspective, that's an equivalent of up to 1.43 cents on the tax rate for each of those years. And because of the challenges with our one-time revenues, I am not recommending an appropriation of assigned fund balance to support recurring expenses. Our reliance on fund balance has grown significantly and unsustainably in recent years and could jeopardize the county's fund balance policy and future AAA bond ratings. As you're aware, our consultants from North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, our financial advisor from First Tryon, and the bond rating agencies have cautioned us against ongoing reliance of fund balance to balance the budget. And the county has maintained our AAA bond for nearly 30 years. While, yes, that's a source of pride, but that rating also helps save taxpayer dollars when we are borrowing money, especially bonds for school projects. While the growth is 0.9%, I was able to provide some enhancements, or recommending some enhancements in the manager's recommended budget. These are addressing service delivery, operations, or helping to meet regulatory compliance, but nearly half is offset with revenues. We'll go into deeper detail during our budget workshop next Thursday, but there are several positions I'm recommending for the animal shelter, emergency services, the sheriff's office, social services, public health. We still have some gun gang violence funds that we can utilize to help offset the Forsyth Winds program. And the holiday pay proration, we've not had discussions about, but that came out of, we have an emergency services assessment that's taking place. That's one of the hot topics, and it's also been a hot topic in my employee sessions, and we're happy to explain that more to you next week. But that primarily provides relief for our first responders, so it's going to impact the sheriff's office and emergency services. As I've stated, the county is committed to continuing to fund Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. The recommended budget utilized a funding formula tied to property tax growth that has been worked on with the school superintendent over this last few years. While we will receive their formal request this upcoming week, and I will send that to you as soon as it is received. Their recommendation would provide an increase of $6.7 million in recurring funds, which is a 3.9% increase over their recurring funding level for this fiscal year. It also converts $3.7 million in one-time funding, which helped raise the baseline, which further demonstrates our commitment to providing sustainable and predictable funds to them. It's important to note that the schools is proposing to reduce the Sheriff's Office School Resource Officer contract from 12 months to 10 months, and in doing so, the county will have to absorb an additional $746,000.
Maybe have to is perhaps not the correct terminology, but go ahead.
Recommending. Correct. This is just a reminder for the commissioners. I know I've been asked about this, is just what are our statutory requirements? We do exceed our statutory requirements, which you are aware, but 48% of the total funding provided to Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools is required by statute, and 52% is not. Shifting gears to our amazing Forsyth County employees, it is important to invest in our employees because it is essential to delivering high-quality services to our residents. We do have employee benefit cost impacts. We're required to provide employer contributions through the local government employees retirement system, and the impact of that, or the increase, is $2.2 million as they continue to increase the percentage each year of those contributions. You all are aware that we have had rising health insurance costs, and that is a major driver of this budget as well, and will impact it by an additional $4.7 million, which will be covered through a combination of employee and employer premiums, the bulk being covered by Forsyth County. The budget does maintain up to 6% performance-based salary increases, which helps ensure the county remains competitive in attracting and retaining employees. That is an average performance adjustment of 4.37%, and it will also help to minimize the impact of the rising health insurance premiums on our staff. Forsyth County does continue in this recommended budget to provide community grants for restricted funds, so for funds that we have specifically for areas, such as behavioral health funds that you just voted on today. That would be provided to allocate funds to expand access to mental health, substance use, and IDD services. 19 projects have been recommended for funding, totaling $2 million. We have opioid settlement funds that are designated to support prevention, treatment, and recovery efforts. 30 projects have been recommended for funding, totaling $4.5 million. We also received Juvenile Crime Prevention Council funds, which is reserved to support programs and services focused on reducing and preventing juvenile crime. The JCPC Council is in the process of finalizing those project recommendations, and there's a budget reserve of $940,842 that's been established to support those efforts. And finally, there are home and community care block grant funds that helps improve service delivery for the growing population of older adults ages 60 and up. For 2025, the allocation was $2.1 million. We are still waiting on the fiscal year 26 allocation, but do expect to receive them. That is administered by Piedmont Triad Regional Council, but this commission does approve those funds. So the budget will include community grants to community organizations for those purposes. For discretionary funds for community grants, In my manager's recommended budget, no funding is included for other community grants that we previously referred to as special appropriations. That's due to our financial constraints and the need to stabilize our own recurring revenues. Although staff did review and provide recommendations on these proposals to you, actual funding was contingent upon available resources and final board approval. At this time, as the manager, I have not identified sufficient funds available to support these requests. However, if the board wishes to fund them at the same level as fiscal year '25, it would require an additional $1.8 million, which equates to approximately 28 cents on the tax rate. The county did make important progress in shaping a more proactive multi-year capital improvement plan this year. The goal is to strategically identify and prioritize infrastructure needs in a way that promotes long-term sustainability, sound financial planning, and service continuity. At the April budget workshop, you've received a preview of identified capital needs, many of which were drawn from the 2015 facility condition assessment that was never fully funded. We do recognize that additional time is required to fully develop a sustainable funding strategy for fiscal year '27 and beyond. And so the FY26 recommended budget includes only the most critical projects, as well as there are several that will already planned initiatives in the works. These projects will be funded with available funding resources and will not require new capital debt. And so the funding sources that we have available are from 2023 PAYGO, general obligation two-third bonds, 65% of the 2025 bond premium that you voted on today. Of course, this is just an estimate. We won't know the exact amount until we close. And then some capital project savings totaling $6.1 million. And we'll go through those projects in depth next week. You received a presentation this morning on fire services. I'll just provide a really brief overview. In addition to the general property tax, the county must set the tax rates for the fire tax district revenues maintained in a separate fund. As part of the board's identified priorities in FY25, 2 initiatives were established. One was to conduct a fire study to evaluate the adequacy of the county's fire tax and service districts and promote greater equity in fire and rescue services. And 2 was to communicate to the volunteer fire departments regarding potential revenue-neutral tax rate adjustments following the '25 reappraisal. And so the manager's recommended budget reflects these directives by adjusting all fire service districts to their calculated revenue-neutral tax rates and implementing a 1.79 cent countywide fire overlay district tax, representing a 1.4 cent increase that will support the county's fire suppression, prevention, and inspection efforts, fund minimal staffing levels across all districts to improve response times and enhance service delivery to residents, and advance the goal of a more equitable and stable fire services system. Just note that it does provide funding for 6 additional positions for the Vienna Fire Department, which contracts with the county for employee firefighters. We do recognize this is a multi-year plan that a fire commission will continue to work on, but the recommended budget hopefully reflects your directives. So planning for the future, the FY26 budget focuses on addressing immediate needs as we cannot resolve all challenges in a single year. And in FY27, we'll reintroduce a comprehensive capital improvement plan, vehicle replacement strategy, along with proposed funding approaches. We'll continue discussions around strengthening our fund balance and implementing new fund balance policies. The budget book is available online, or will be immediately following this meeting, at forsyth.cc/budget, and hard copies will be provided at all libraries. I hope you find this recommended budget reflects a responsible, balanced, and future-focused approach. It addresses Forsyth County's most immediate challenges while laying a strong foundation for long-term financial sustainability and operational excellence, ensuring we can continue delivering high-quality services that residents rely on and value. So our next steps would be our detailed budget presentation next Thursday, May 15th at 9 a.m. It will be held in the multipurpose room on the 4th floor, and it will be streamed live for individuals who would like to watch that way. All of the other dates are also on this slide. What I will say is I've made my best professional recommendation, and now the budget is the board's. I look forward to engaging with you in further discussions, supporting your policy deliberations, any modifications you would like to make, and the eventual adoption of a budget. And last but not least, I have to say that developing a budget is always a monumental undertaking, and the challenges faced this year have been extraordinary. However, the team has risen to the occasion, working collaboratively to develop thoughtful and viable options. I have to give special thanks to our Budget Director, Kyle Wolf, our Deputy Budget Director, Kim Bussey, Budget Analyst, Casey Balzer, Aisha Carter, Will Fulbright, Michaela Westbrook, our Deputy Managers, Kyle Haney, Denise Price, our CFO, Terry Goodman, Deputy CFO, Lee Plunkett, our consultant, Jonna Sharp, all of them for their exceptional efforts and dedication throughout this process. I'm grateful for your leadership as the Board of County Commissioners. I'm grateful for the professionalism and dedication of our county team, Sheriff Kimbrough, Register of Deeds, Lynn Johnson, and the engagement and support of our residents. And so I look forward to having further discussions with you next week and the weeks to come as you deliberate on the recommended budget.
Any questions for the county manager at this point, or comments?
I do. Chantel, you ask each department to make cuts. What's the grand total of the cuts that that the departments made?
We can give you that, but we started with right-sizing budgets, and I believe the initial amount was a total of about $8 million. And that was not including salaries.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? I probably want to comment. Well, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say a general thank you to County Manager Robinson. I feel like we're getting the honest bill of goods in the recommended budget. It hasn't been sugarcoating problems that have perhaps been glossed over to a degree that may have been less than optimal in recent budget years. And even when I'm hearing bad news, I'd rather hear that than be given a rosy scenario.
Well, I'd like to, other comments?
Well, I would also commend the county manager for a yeoman's effort in this regard, and also note that that's the slowest I've ever heard you speak before.
You almost hear it.
That's right.
Any other comments? I'll close with, I certainly want to thank all the staff that you recognize. I know it's a lot of hard work, and I know you all have really been putting some midnight hours on this. But I'd like to thank you, Chantel, particularly for keeping all of us informed during this process. It hadn't been a surprise. The workshops we had earlier prior to this helped forecast some of the issues that we were dealing with. And I certainly appreciate it. And I think, and for the public to know, every one of our commissioners actually had a private sort of go-through session, shorter than this, but actually to kind of hit the highlights, and that was helpful from being sort of informed about what's going on. I will make one somewhat counter comment to Commissioner Bussey. I mean, I think we knew what we were doing in the other budgets. We knew we were using some one-time money, and we knew that the $6 million from the ARPA money was running out. We knew there were going to be replacement dollars that were going to happen. And it did, postpone any kind of tax increases for 2 years. And so I think there are a lot of things to value in I mean, it wasn't a secret, kind of that part. I think we've had some great discussions about our capital needs. That was newer discussion, new material, that was important. And we've been fortunate to be able to actually get caught up on some of the sort of the new replacement things that are kind of basically coming to an end, which is good. That part is kind of over and finished. And for those that have heard the words PAYGO before in this room, PAYGO is no more. and we're not going to have that part. It'll contribute to our fund balance, which is something that we do want to grow more, just from the advice we receive from our rating agencies. I will really happy that this most recent small 2/3 bond sale resulted in another AAA bond rating. And I think it was a lot closer, and we had some admonishments and acknowledgments from our bond experts that advise us and do that work. But I'm pleased that we ended up on the AAA bond rating. That certainly saves money for the next 20 years for taxpayers, and that's why we've been trying to work hard to maintain that and keep it, as I believe said earlier, for at least the past 30 years. So all those are good things. I look forward to. There'll be a lot of there's a few details that go on, and there's probably some other discussion that we'll be involved in next week for sure, and actually the coming weeks. So thank you very much for your. I know it's hard work for all your parts.
Chairman Martin, before you hit I wanted to tell Chantel, thank you again so very much. I don't know if we've acknowledged our consultants, but I trust you, but I'm grateful that you had them supporting you in the background. It was good to be able to listen to them, listen to another perspective in terms of the budget, so I appreciate that.
Good.
Although it's really hard to drink out of a cup of water, I'm in the trenches with you, so thank you.
Thank you for mentioning that, Commissioner McDaniel, and maybe Chantel can turn around, and they're both here today. I saw you out in the audience. Appreciate you being here. Been a lot of good
Absolutely.
support
I
from
was,
from
I knew.
our North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. And
Yes,
what you
yep. So
recognize.
our two consultants from North Carolina Association of County Commissioners are here. Jonna Sharp, who you've seen a lot, and I did not know Amy was coming. I was almost in tears, and y'all know I don't cry. So I appreciate Amy Cannon also being here to support me today.
And I think the public should know that these ladies came to help us to find the new county manager, which was OTU. So that was their initial purpose. So I appreciate the state's, strategic resource to help county commissioners all across our state to do the hard work that we need to do.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Well, I think with no further business, we are adjourned. Good.